Hey everybody, welcome back to another retro adventure. We're going to pick back up with this one here. I made a quick short about it earlier, how I was having trouble getting it to post. So in case you haven't seen that one, let me catch everybody up to speed. I found a post, an old forum post of mine from many years ago, detailing out a problem I had and listing the exact specs of a machine that I had back in like 2002 or 3. And I was like, I want to rebuild that machine. I want to, relive that experience. So I jumped on eBay, all excited, ordered up some parts, waited for them all to show up, and here they are. I put everything all together, hit the power button, and nothing happens, nothing at all. So I ordered one of these, which is a PC analyzer. It displays LED, or has an LED display readout that the number it shows corresponds with whatever it is it's doing, and if it runs into an error, and it'll stop on a certain code, and you can look that up and get a good idea of what is wrong with your system. Only mine, like the video shows, just showed dash. So I'm guessing, hoping, praying that it is a bad BIOS. And this board here is nice enough to have a removable BIOS chip. Sometimes they're not removable. So the new BIOS chip showed up in the mail today. There she be. And we're going to pop it in there and see if it doesn't, see if it does or does not work again. I hope it does work again. A little bit of catch up. Why do I think it's the BIOS? Well, again, this shows dash. It has no readout. It can't, my guess is it can't communicate with the BIOS. On top of that, if you tear everything off of this board, pull the RAM out, pull the video card out, leave the CPU in, you still don't get anything, no beeps, no errors, no nothing. And if you pull the CPU out, then you do finally get an error, but it's a Asus voice. I think there's they have a word for it, but basically a lady will start talking and just go, no CPU present. She just says that over and over, no CPU present, no CPU present. But if the RAM's not in there and the CPU is in there, it doesn't say anything. It gives me no other codes other than, almost dropped the phone. It gives me no other voice errors other than the CPU is missing. So if I were to pull this BIOS chip out of it and then power it up, it does the same thing. If the CPU is in there, it's just all the fans spin up and we don't get any post codes, no beeps, no nothing. And if I take the CPU out of it with the BIOS out of it, I still get the no CPU present or no CPU installed. So I'm guessing the BIOS is just gone. Maybe the previous owner tried to flash it and it didn't flash and they broke it, or maybe something physically happened and shorted this chip, or something died inside of it. Who knows? Like I said, I hope it's just this BIOS chip and we can get this thing up and running. So let's give it a go. So in order to pop this chip out of there, there's specific tools for this, and I don't have them. All you really need is focus. I have an old, there we go. I have an old, pretty kind of twisted and chipped up micro screwdriver, flathead. I use it as a pry bar for stuff like this. And as long as you're careful and you try to keep it off the board, and when I say off the board, you don't slip down underneath the chip and poke the PCB with it, you should be fine. I mean, I've never ruined a board like this. So basically, I'm going to get down into that corner there and then pry up carefully, and then do the same thing to the other side. And there we go. Chip has successfully been removed. And it doesn't look like there's anything physically wrong with it. Like none of these, nothing looks like it's gotten burnt, but it doesn't mean that there's not something wrong inside of it, or the memory, the flash memory inside of it it could have become corrupted. So let's put this over here nice and safe and put the new chip in. Now in order to do this, it's pretty simple. Pay attention to your corners. You got 3 sharp corners and then a beveled corner, and that's going to correspond with the socket here. It's pretty simple stuff. You really can't screw it up because I don't think it'll actually physically fit any other way. Before you go messing around with all of this, always make sure that your power plug is unplugged, or at least the power supply is turned off. But to install this chip, just make sure it's lined up, press down, and it'll snap into place. So now that we have a good connection there, to get a PC to post, you need 4 things. Well, actually you need a host of things, but you need a working motherboard, you need RAM, you need CPU, and you need some sort of GPU or way to output video to the screen. So since I have fulfilled all of those prerequisites, let's go ahead and plug this in. Let me make sure that's pushed all the way in. There we go. So, little LED is on, screen is on. Yep. And then my speakers are hooked up. So if there is a problem with anything else, bad video card, bad CPU, the onboard voice thing, the Asus voice, whatever it is called, should pop on and say, this is bad, that is bad. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully it just turns on. So here we go. That seems like that is a no-go. That's disappointing. Let's see if my PC analyzer can interact with the BIOS now. And I got the PC analyzer plugged in, got my power supply hooked up. Let's see if we get any kind of readout. No. Nuts. That's really unfortunate. Crap. All right, in anticipation of the BIOS not being the problem, the only thing here that is not known good, minus the motherboard, would be the processor. This video card is known good. My PSU is known good. The RAM is known good. So it just leaves the motherboard and the CPU. So I did buy another CPU. Unfortunately, this one was marketed as testing and works. A lot of the pins are not straight. They're straight-ish, but I mean, you can see some of them just a little bit bent, a little bit wonky. And there is a slight chip, there it is, on the silicon. So I have my doubts as to whether or not this CPU works, but we're gonna put it in there and we're gonna find out. Well, I mean, if the motherboard's bad, we won't find out, but shoot, it can't get worse. Can't get worse. So let's unplug that. Draining the power. Boom. Nothing in there, looks burnt up. Well, I just realized the bottom of that looks, nice and whole. The new CPU, quote unquote, looks like it has a small crack. I don't have high hopes for this fixing my issue. Not at all. But let's see if we can fit it into the slot there. Some of these pins are bent. Alright, I'm going to have to spend a few minutes straining these out as well as I can and trying and retrying to get it to fit into the socket. I'll be right back. After fiddling around with this for quite some time, I finally got it to seat down in there. There was a number of pins in there that were stopping us from doing that, but now it's in there. So hopefully, and I don't have high hopes, but hopefully this works. Let me get that CPU cooler back on there. This definitely needs two hands, and it's very fiddly to get the hooks on there, so I'll see it when I get it back on there. Alright, plug back in, hook it back up, cooler is on there. Let's see if it's any different. No, it's not. Oh shoot, yes it is. Holy crap, are you serious? That thing worked? Wait. Yeah, that's the voice lady. Holy crap, it works. Why didn't the other one work? that bent up, mangled processor was the problem? Or wasn't a problem? This much cleaner processor is the problem? Holy crap. I am now interested to see if our previous BIOS, and I apologize, I'm trying to use the light. I don't have like nice lighting in my room, and I'm trying to work on that. So some things are going to get washed out here, but back to the task at hand. I'm going to try this BIOS in there and see if the BIOS worked. It probably did. The CPU is probably the issue all along, but then this motherboard does have a test for a bad CPU, and it wasn't saying bad CPU. So I'm kind of at a loss for words. Why wouldn't it detect a bad CPU? I don't know. Anywho, let me scratch a curious itch, and I'll be right back. Got the old BIOS back in there, and it does, in fact. Quiet. I know this. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so the old BIOS is in there and it's working just fine. So this CPU, it doesn't work. How does it? I mean, anything could have happened. But I'm surprised that that one that I put in there works. Okay, well, it is what it is. Okay, so I'm seeing that it's detecting it as the CPU, it should be an AMD XP 2400. And it's detecting it as an AMD Duron 1500 megahertz. That's maybe there's something in the BIOS you have to set up. There is a jumper right over here next to the north bridge, and it sets the front side bus. And according to my manual over here, 1 and 2, the position 1 and 2 is your higher FSB, 400, 333, 266. And the lower one is the 200, and it says, oh, where did it say it? Yeah, when using the AMD Duron processor, change the FSB jumper to pins 2 and 3. Well, I'm obviously on 1 and 2, I think. Anyways, and it's detecting it as a Duron, but a second ago, I swapped it over. I moved the jumper down to pins, what I'm thinking is 2 and 3, and it won't post. So something weird is going on here. Real weird. Okay, I don't think it has anything to do with the new processor or the new BIOS, because it doesn't post every time, and really it's not even like 1 out of 10. I've gotten it to post once or twice, but it's not doing it. All right, messing around with this without really any luck to get it to post. but the card displays something. F8, F7. And I really have just been turning it on and turning it off. I'm not doing anything. Let's turn it off. Turn it on. And now nothing. And sometimes the top LED on the right, CLK clock, sometimes that'll be lit up and sometimes it will not. And vice versa for the bottom one. And I'm not sure, I think it just says reset on the bottom. Sometimes that'll be lit up and sometimes it won't. Yeah, see, I mean, I've changed nothing. And the clock LED is now lit up. This is a strange issue. Anyways, I had an F8, F7. Let's see what that is. I managed to get into the BIOS, set everything up, saved the settings, and it restarted. And now we're stuck at C1CO. So this is, it's kind of random. Absolutely random. You know, no post now and C1CO. Okay, so after fiddling around with this thing, checking these numbers that pop up on the analyzer, and just generally doing a bunch of research online, I've come to the conclusion, without any factual hard evidence, that one of these capacitors, or maybe multiples of them, have gone bad. After inspecting all of them though, I don't see anything wrong with them, but just because there's nothing physically wrong with them doesn't mean that they aren't bad, because they can just go bad. Simple fact that this thing is so unreliable. Multiple tries to get it to post without changing any hardware or settings, and sometimes it posts and sometimes it doesn't. One time I got into the BIOS and I started going around in there, and it started getting slower and slower and slower until it froze it completely. I'm thinking one of these capacitors has gone bad, so I either remove each one and test them individually and put them back until I find the one that's no good, or replace, we just blanket replace all of them, which might not be a bad idea on something this old. Or I can of course take it to somebody and have them do it. However, I feel like I've spent enough money on this project already, and I don't really want to double it or even triple it with somebody else's time and effort. So I think we're going to leave it for today, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's disappointing, because I really wanted to kind of, I've said it a couple other times, I played, this was the PC I played Oblivion on. I played it probably a couple of 100 hours on it, and it wasn't what you would say the most, by today's standard, it's unplayable, but I mean, I played it at like 20 frames per second and I had a great time. So I wanted to do it again, and time has stopped us from doing that. So like I said, let me figure out what I'm going to do with this board, whether or not I'm going to fix it or just replace it, because I feel like it is the board. And we will do some retro gaming another time. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna end it here. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. I try to do this kind of stuff almost weekly. Always a good time, even when things don't go your way. So I will see you next time, and hopefully it will be with a fixed board, or us fixing the board. Who knows? Let's see. All right, thanks. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.